Hey everyone, I need to talk about the template of the hero's journey a bit more because I'm not actually using that. And I talk about it all the time. I'm evolving how this works, so bear with me. I'm using Joseph Campbell's book, A Hero with a Thousand Faces. And if you're familiar with that, fine. If not, it's basically what he, as a philosopher, did, spent years studying myth, reading myth, seeing myth. And he began to detect patterns in there. Excuse me, I got a little bit of a cold. He began to detect patterns in there that fascinated him. He kept looking and looking at them. And he eventually realized that these patterns were following a template. And he identified them by looking through the myth and the stories. And he realized that they played out in the psyche, but for some reason he maintained a very mystical way of describing it. And I want to take a look at his 17-step hero's journey. We're not going to follow that exactly. What I need to do is re-identify it. But, I recently got short-tempered with somebody who said, that I'm not seeing the hero's journey, as being something that viably we're supposed to follow. And I realize what I'm doing is I'm extracting the self-healing path from the hero's journey. Joseph Campbell identified this big, broad thing going on and realized it played in the psyche. I've placed it in very specific parts, and I've identified them in plain language. And that's the difference. I want to do that here, but I also always use that term, hero's journey, because people know that. I don't know, if I said I've the self-healing template, people would be like, what are you talking about? And I don't know what to do, because it really isn't the hero's journey. It's like the Tao Te Ching, the Tao that can be spoken, is not the true Tao. There is something here that is a basic, fundamental, physical reality of how things work in the cosmos, and we are a part of and emergent from that, and that's what this covers. But people like supernatural. Maybe he knew that and just kept people. I'm sure he saw this template exists all over the Bible. I'm sure he saw that, but he didn't really make a big deal out of it, did he? I'm going to. All right, I don't want to spend a lot of time with Joseph Campbell's template. What I'm going to do is we're going to have to identify things, but I want to talk about it, and let's just take a look at how it very specifically is. This graph right here shows it, and it is the 17 stages of Joseph Campbell's monomyth. This one actually goes counterclockwise. If you look at it, it starts with call to adventure, refusal of call, supernatural aid, crossing first threshold, belly of the whale, road of trials, meeting with the goddess, temptations, atonement with the Father. I can't read that. Hang on a second. I've got to pull up something else. Oh, there we go. Atonement with the Father, apotheosis, and then the ultimate boon, refusal of the return, the magic flight, rescue from without, the crossing of the return threshold, master of two worlds, freedom to live. Okay. This plays out in the psyche. How do we do that? What is belly of the whale inside of the mind? What is atonement with the Father? Meeting with the goddess? What are those inside of the mind? They're still in analog form. They haven't been converted to something that we can interact with. So I'm not going to leave that template like that. Now, I'm not the only one that has done this. In fact, a lot of people have used this, realizing that it is a mental path for healing. It is being used in the treatment of patients with PTSD and things like that. It's a known path that what we must do if we're really looking for, I'm at wit's end, I need help. This is what we do. If you want to work it out yourself without taking drugs and alcohol and trying to, if you want to work it out, this is what you do. That is what this template is. I want to identify it that tightly. So I'm going to get rid of those terms. Well, we'll just dial them in tighter. So the first thing I'm going to do is just change that circular graph to something I'm a little more comfortable with. I'm just going to put it in lines. It can be in linear format. And we've got the first section right there is the departure. And that's where we have our call to adventure, the refusal of the call, the supernatural aid, the crossing of the first threshold, and belly of the whale. So the question then becomes, what are these specifically when we play them out up here? And are they all necessary? There may be things that 17 steps is a lot of steps. We are actually not going to end up with that many. The stories are so rich that there's a lot of additional steps there, and he spotted that from all over the place. But it's actually simpler than that. There aren't a full 17, or at least not that I'm aware of. And this list, I'm going to redo, but it has to stay flexible. It's going to have to be updated as understanding continues to evolve. Okay, let's start going through the list then. The very first one, the call to adventure. This is actually, this is a personal calling. When you turn inward and decide, I've had it, I'm going to change my life, that's the call right there. So the call to adventure is going to be, I decide to change my life. Something has happened in a way where I've decided I'm going to go back and change my life. And we can leave that term, but I'm going to leave it as I right now, and everybody read it that way. It's not about me, it's about every person. When you grab this material, it becomes your guru. So when you start doing this, you've decided to change your life. The refusal of the call, that shows up, but that's not really a refusal of the call. What it is a struggle to leave the past. And I'm going to put that in there. There is not really a refusal of the call. In the stories there is. If it's an adventure, like in Luke Skywalker, we need you to come and fight. I can't. I have to stay and help my aunt and uncle. Then they get killed. So he got called, then he refused, then he gets to go. So that those pieces are in there, and you look at that and say, well, he refused. But actually, when you play it out in the psyche, we're not refusing to do that. We might look at life and say, I got to make changes. I'm fit to be tied. We're going to struggle to do that. We're going to be in environments that we're going to outgrow. We're going to be in relationships that we're going to outgrow. There's going to be some problems as we start doing this if we do it. It's not going to be an easy path, and it won't be comfortable probably a lot of times. The refusal of the call then is struggle to leave the past. Okay, then we move right into supernatural aid. There is nothing supernatural. There's no such thing as supernatural. This cosmos operates on physical laws. There might be things happening that we don't understand, and we read minds or do something like that and go, oh, it's mysterious. And I felt a presence, and I sensed something here, and I was alerted to something before that'll happen. But those are natural things. They're not supernatural. And when we treat them as supernatural, we're going to not be able to interact with them very well. We're going to have to learn how they work as we move along. Supernatural aid is this knowledge. It is knowing that you must go in and interact with yourself. Your higher being needs to interact with your memories. That needs to use your higher being needs to use your conscious to interact with your memories, to unwind them, to look at them until they lose their charge, until the pain, the hurt, the clinging, all of those things are gone. We have to look at that. That is supernatural aid. The crossing of the first threshold. There are two thresholds that we do cross. The first one is when you turn from outward looking to inward looking. That's the door right there. Rumi, I'm going to paraphrase this, sorry. I've been living on the lip of insanity, knocking, trying to get out. The door opens. I've been knocking from the inside. That's your threshold right there. It's saying, I'm going to stop blaming the world, and I'm going to look inward and see what I'm carrying. There, you've crossed that threshold. You've turned inward. Belly of the whale, what this means really is that you are now in your mind. You're not actually in the region where the problems are yet. Those are behind another threshold. There's fear, there's shame, there's things up ahead that we have to go through. But right now, the belly of the whale simply signifies that we are mentally now looking inward. Okay, let's take a look at the chart again real quick. We see that we've completed that first section on the upper left, the separation. Remember, we're going counterclockwise on this one. We've completed our call to adventure. We're struggling to leave the past. We're getting all of our knowledge that we need along the way. We crossed the first threshold. And now, belly of the whale, there we are. We are in this lower section that says initiation. That's actually what is happening inside of the psyche. Okay, and I haven't mentioned it this time. I've mentioned it in other videos, but if you're following along here, what you're going to see is that this template is not something that is made up that we're supposed to follow. The template actually tells us as an individual, here is how you came about. This is what created your problems. This is how you emerge in life. This is what you must do to interact with it. If we are going to a psychologist to get help, this is what we would do. We have to turn inward. We have to resolve issues inside. That's exactly what this is. The template follows the life of a human who is looking to emerge and become enlightened from a non-enlightened state. The steps that a human would follow is this. Then we call it a template. Okay, let's move on into the next section. We are now in the psyche. We've got initiation, and we have the road of trials, the meeting with the goddess. Woman is the temptress. Atonement with the Father, apotheosis, divine transformation, the ultimate boon. This to me is where it gets a little convoluted. we're actually now ready to start working through our pain, our shame, letting things go, stop clinging, grasping, wanting, desiring in unhealthy ways that are hurtful to us. That is where we are. The road of trials means we're going to struggle. It's going to be difficult. The meeting with the goddess. Woman is the temptress. What we have going on here, if you've been following my work, is that there's a hierarchy of conscious, subconscious. This is called male, female. However, a goddess, depending on the story, I'd have to see where the location is. So there's no meeting with a goddess there. Woman is the temptress. This is the subconscious, actually, that is holding all of the characteristics that we're trying to leave behind. This is not a woman tempting us. This is our subconscious acting in the hierarchical analog state as the subconscious. These are the characteristics that we have inside of us that are continually acting out. That is what is our problem. And that is what? Desires, drugs, alcohol, problem, shame, hurt, all those things. That is what is hurting us. Atonement with the Father. The Father is the higher self. Atonement with the Father. When you first are, as we're along in life, that higher self becomes separated. We begin living in our experiences. As we come out of that, we bring back the higher self into it. That is atonement with the Father, bringing our higher self back into it. Apotheosis, divine transformation. This is when we are healing and we are becoming divine. What does divine mean in this case, though? There is no divine. What this means is that we are rising above the stuff that we were once hanging on to, clinging to. And it feels good. Oh yeah, when you finally get some stuff, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe I held that so long. And then you have your ultimate boon right there. So this is what is happening as we're dealing with our issues. This is taking our memories, all the pain, the shame, the things that we have put inside of us that are not resolved, and they continue to act out. This whole initiation area. To get to the point of divine transformation, you must resolve those issues till they're okay, till they don't hurt you anymore. And that is the ultimate boon. I do want to say sequentially, ultimate boon right here at the end of this. In all of the myths and the religious stories, you're seeking something. There's a destination that you're going to. It's the reason for the story. You start at one place and you're going to someplace else. That destination is important, but the destinations are mental states of being. A better flow in the Tao if you are a Taoist. Nirvana if you are a Buddhist. The kingdom of heaven within if you are a Christian, etc. Jason and the Argonauts, the golden fleece. In these stories, there's always something that they're going to get to bring back. So the ultimate boon to have it here, you're getting it here and then you're returning with it. But this is that inner state of peace that you're looking for. Remembering, however, that this might be only one trip through. This is a trip you might have to take over and over again. I resolved that issue. Yay, I feel better. And then time goes on and something else emerges. So better make the trip again. So this, that'll happen. That can happen here. Absolutely. Analogs, rebirth, going in and starting over again. And there's another one, reincarnation, going in as many times as need be to continue to wash away everything until everything is all right, until the rebirth has happened. When you play them out in the psyche, that's how they come about. They're not physical. Okay, as we move on, now we're going to return. We've taken care of this. We feel good. We're going to return. This is where it really gets convoluted. We have refusal of the return, the magic flight, rescue from without, the crossing of the return threshold, master of two worlds, and freedom to live. Now ask yourself this: if you're healing, are you going to refuse to return? We're living life. Are you going to go inside your head and never come back out? We live life experiences in the physical world, but the quality of them are based on up here. So we look at the quality, and if it's not okay, we find out what's wrong up here. Then we come out and check the quality again. There's no refusal in there, really, that's happening. The magic flight, I don't know what is magic there. These are parts of the story elements that were there to help make the story better. You have to return back out. There's a voyage. They don't just end it and say, yay, they lived happily ever after. It's a culture of storytelling. You don't end it real quick. The rescue from without, same thing. The crossing of the return threshold signifies coming back out into the physical world. You've taken care of that. Master of two worlds, yeah, that makes sense. Now, once you've mastered the inner world, you can master the outer world. But you cannot master the outer world if you haven't mastered the inner world. And then you have freedom to live. Freedom, that's it. So you see there's some parts in here that I think don't have a place. And maybe they do. I'm not going to take them out, but I'm going to redo the list, consolidate it, and leave out the things right now that I don't believe are there. But again, this is always going to be a flexible kind of a platform here. We're still trying to figure out what they're doing by just looking through the material and analyzing it until it makes sense on what it is. Okay, after dropping out the belly of the whale and the goddess and all of those things, atonement with the Father, what do we end up with after we have interpreted everything? This is my list. I decide to change my life. I will struggle to leave my past. Need knowledge of how I heal. I shift from physical to a mental outlook. I am looking inside my own head. This is going to be hard. My unresolved issues are going to act out, but I must reconnect with my higher self. This will help me to rise above or ascend. Healing takes place when that occurs. Across the return threshold is coming back. You've now resolved that issue. Time to go back and live life. And now you are skilled to operate in mental and physical planes. Happiness follows until maybe you have to make the trip again. But that's what we're after. We're after happiness, right? That's our goal. And we're looking to get rid of anything that is in the way. And this is the path that was identified. I think there's still variations to it. I don't believe this is exactly accurate. And I think that it could be structured actually a little bit better. But when I'm talking about the hero's journey, this is actually what I'm looking at. Not the real hero's journey, but this nested part inside of it, which is a self-healing path that is, it's for certain people to see. If we were to pick up the Bible and go from Genesis and Exodus right off the bat and see what Moses is up to, there's a calling, chosen. How does that happen? How did Moses get called? Moses got called by being put into a basket and saved as an infant for a higher calling somewhere. He was singled out. And when you go through the other stories, you're going to find whoever the hero is going to be singled out. So that is a pattern thing in there. Someone is called, somebody is singled out, somebody is chosen as God's representative or whatever. So that happens with Moses. Then what happens, the struggle to leave the past behind. They're with Pharaoh. Pharaoh is an analog for your past life. You're a prisoner to your past. You want to leave. So you leave, you get permit, yeah, go ahead and go. But what happens? You struggle to leave the past. Pharaoh comes back after him. This is analogous to us saying, I'm changing my life. I'm not doing that again. But we fall back. We keep having problems. We struggle. It's a hard thing to do. So what happens then? We have to heal ourselves. We need help. We invoke God's help to escape. We have to cross a threshold. What is that threshold? The Dead Sea. We invoke God's help. The sea opens. We cross through. Boom. We have now entered into what Joseph Campbell called the belly of the whale, but in this case, it's not the belly of the whale. It is, but when we break it into the subconscious, it is the inner part of us. We have now crossed inward. If you were to look at the Jason and the Argonaut story, you would see the same thing. Jason was set aside as an infant and saved. He got supernatural help when they sailed or they struggled to leave an island behind because that represented their past. This is right in the beginning. They needed to get underway, but they were struggling. They finally did get underway. They go up to the clashing rocks. They have to invoke a god to help open them up. It's the same story, held in different analogs. You look at those pieces and parts and see, oh, somebody was selected out. Somebody is struggling to leave the past. Somebody is crossing through some kind of a threshold and going over something dangerous. All of those components become visible when you play it out in the psyche and strip off the analog components. That is how I am doing this. And I think what I would like to take the opportunity to repeat in this video that I've said in prior videos then is that this healing template is what every human needs to change their life, to emerge, to rise up above the pain and the hurt of first life, if we get to that point. However, most people are not going to get to that point. That template is held inside of a story that the people will carry. That's how I see it. Why else would they be? Why would there be one template in Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, Greek myth, Roman myth, Christianity? There's one template in all of them. What are the rest of them then? Arcs. Various arcs. Many are called, few are chosen. Many stand outside the narrow gate where only, the solitary and elect, depending on the source you're getting it from, will pass. That's turning inward. That's going through Rumi's door. That's going through the Dead Sea, the clashing rocks, turning inward. Okay. Yeah, it's all that way. I can find it. I love Do Enoch and all the other ones too. They're all the same. Okay. Hope this was helpful, and I apologize for the confusion. I'm not quite sure how to proceed. I'm finding something that I don't know what it is, and I just have to play with it. And this is actually, I appreciate everybody listening, the videos and the ones that exchange a little bit. That just posting the video helps me understand. I don't know why, but it does. And yeah, well, love one another. I'll see you in the next video.